Welcome to the Great Indian AI Podcast channel. Today we're taking a deep dive into the world of Six Sigma.
What's fascinating about Six Sigma is that while it's often associated with manufacturing, it's actually a methodology that has far-reaching applications across various industries.
You're absolutely right, and that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. You've sent us some great material on Six Sigma, articles, definitions, even some historical context. It seems you're really aiming to get a comprehensive understanding of this concept.
Yes, and I think what's important for our listener to understand is that Six Sigma is more than just a buzzword. It's a powerful system for improving processes and achieving near perfection in whatever you do.
Okay, let's unpack this Six Sigma thing, starting with the basics. You've included an excerpt from the Wikipedia article on Six Sigma, which defines it as a set of techniques and tools for process improvement, with the goal of near perfection. But what does that really mean in practice?
Well, think of it this way. Every process has some inherent variability, right? There's always a chance for errors, defects, or deviations from the desired outcome. Six Sigma aims to minimize that variability to the point where defects become extremely rare.
So it's not just about making things good enough. It's about striving for a level of quality that's statistically exceptional.
Exactly, and that's where the name Six Sigma comes from. It refers to a statistical concept where 6 standard deviations lie between the process mean and the nearest specification limit. In simpler terms, it means achieving a defect rate of just 3.4 defects per million opportunities.
3.4 defects per million. That's mind-boggling. It's like finding a single grain of sand on an entire beach.
Yeah.
But does it really translate to real-world improvement? Are there cases where it's too precise?
That's a great question, and the answer is nuanced. While striving for such a low defect rate might seem excessive in some cases, the principle behind Six Sigma is about constantly pushing the boundaries of quality and efficiency.
I see. So it's not necessarily about hitting that exact number every time, but rather about adopting a mindset of continuous improvement and striving for excellence.
Precisely. And some of the most successful companies in the world, like General Electric, Motorola, and Toyota, have attributed significant cost savings and efficiency gains to the implementation of Six Sigma principles.
That's impressive. But how do they actually achieve these incredible results? What's the secret sauce of Six Sigma?
Well, one of the key factors is that Six Sigma isn't just a random collection of tools and techniques. It's a comprehensive methodology with a clear philosophy and a structured approach.
So it's not just about fixing problems as they arise. It's about having a proactive system in place to prevent problems from occurring in the first place.
You got it. Six Sigma emphasizes the importance of understanding and controlling process variation, identifying the root causes of defects, and implementing robust solutions to eliminate them.
That makes sense.
Wow.
But I'm curious about the philosophy behind Six Sigma. What are the core beliefs that drive this approach?
There are 3 key principles that underpin Six Sigma. First, it emphasizes that stable and predictable processes are crucial for success. If you can control the variability in your processes, you can control the quality of your output. Second, Six Sigma believes that everything can be measured and improved. Nothing is off limits. And third, it stresses the importance of total commitment from the entire organization, especially from top-level management.
That makes sense. If you're going to commit to this journey of continuous improvement, you need everyone on board, from the CEO to the frontline workers.
Exactly. And here's something for you to consider, our listener. Even if you're not running a multinational corporation, these principles can still be incredibly valuable in your own life. Think about it. Whether you're trying to improve your productivity at work, your fitness routine, or even just organizing your kitchen, these ideas of stable processes, measurement, and commitment can make a huge difference.
Right. It's about taking a systematic and data-driven approach to whatever you're trying to improve.
Absolutely. Now let's move on to the practical side of things. Six Sigma has 2 main methodologies, or battle plans, as we like to call them, DMAC and DMADV.
DMAA and DMADV. I have to admit, those acronyms sound a bit intimidating. Can you break them down for us?
Of course. DAIC stands for Define, Measure, Analyze, Improve, and Control. It's a 5-step process used for improving existing processes. Think of it like this. You define the problem you're trying to solve, measure the current performance, analyze the root causes of the problem, implement improvements, and then establish controls to sustain those improvements.
So DMAC is about fixing what's broken and making it better.
Exactly. Now DMADV stands for Define, Measure, Analyze, Design, and Verify. This methodology is used for creating new products, processes, or services. It follows a similar structured approach, starting with defining the customer needs and desired outcomes, then measuring and analyzing those requirements, designing the new product or process, and finally verifying that it meets the defined specifications.
So DMAC is for improvement, and DMA-DV is for innovation. That's a helpful distinction.
And these methodologies are what set Six Sigma apart from other quality improvement approaches. They provide a clear roadmap for tackling any problem or opportunity in a structured and data-driven way.
That's fascinating. But I've also heard that Six Sigma has this whole belt system, like martial arts. Is that true?
Yes, Six Sigma does have a hierarchical belt system that signifies different levels of expertise and responsibility within an organization.
So you have your yellow belts, green belts, black belts, and even master black belts.
That's right. And this belt system isn't just about prestige. It serves a practical purpose by ensuring that there are qualified individuals at every level of the organization who can lead and support Six Sigma initiatives.
So it's like having a well-trained army of process improvers, each with their specific skills and expertise.
That's a great analogy. Now, I know we've covered a lot of ground already, but before we move on, I want to address a question that our listener might be having. We've talked about how Six Sigma aims for near perfection and how companies have saved millions by implementing it. But is there ever a point where it's too much? Can Six Sigma be detrimental in some cases?
That's an excellent question, and it's one we'll definitely explore further in this deep dive.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive on the Great Indian AI Podcast channel.
We've laid a solid foundation, understanding what Six Sigma is and its core principles. Now let's shift gears and explore how this methodology translates into tangible results in the real world.
One of the best ways to grasp the impact of Six Sigma is to look at specific examples, and you've provided us with some excellent case studies.
You're right. For instance, you've included an article about how General Electric under Jack Welch embraced Six Sigma and integrated it into their company culture.
What's particularly interesting about GE's approach was Welch's commitment to making Six Sigma training mandatory for all employees, from top executives to frontline workers.
So it wasn't just a top-down initiative. It was about empowering everyone in the organization with the tools and knowledge to drive improvement.
Exactly, and this comprehensive approach paid off. GE reported billions of dollars in cost savings and productivity improvements directly attributable to Six Sigma.
That's incredible. But I'm curious about the specifics. What kind of projects did they tackle using Six Sigma?
Well, they applied it to everything from manufacturing processes to financial operations and even customer service.
So it wasn't just confined to the factory floor. It was a company-wide philosophy of continuous improvement.
Precisely. And the results speak for themselves. GE became a benchmark for other companies looking to implement Six Sigma.
Now, let's move on to another industry where Six Sigma has made significant inroads: healthcare. You've included a fascinating case study about how a hospital used Six Sigma to reduce medical errors.
Yes, this is a particularly compelling example because it highlights how Six Sigma can be applied in a field where precision and accuracy are paramount.
Absolutely. Even small errors in healthcare can have serious consequences. So the focus on eliminating defects and reducing variability is even more critical.
The case study you provided focuses on a hospital that was struggling with medication errors, a common but potentially life-threatening problem in healthcare settings.
So how did they use Six Sigma to address this issue?
They formed a team of healthcare professionals and Six Sigma experts to analyze the medication dispensing process. They mapped out each step, identified potential points of failure, and collected data on error rates.
So they took a very systematic approach to understanding the problem before jumping into solutions.
Exactly. And by applying Six Sigma tools and methodologies, they were able to identify the root causes of medication errors and implement changes to the process.
What kind of changes did they make?
Well, one of the key findings was that distractions and interruptions during medication dispensing were a major contributor to errors.
That makes sense. It's easy to imagine how a busy hospital environment could lead to distractions.
To address this, they implemented a no interruption zone policy during medication dispensing. They also introduced barcoding technology to double-check medication against patient records and standardize the medication storage and labeling system.
So they combined process improvements with technological solutions to minimize the potential for human error.
That's right. And the results were remarkable. They saw a significant reduction in medication errors, improving patient safety and overall quality of care.
That's truly inspiring. It shows how Six Sigma can be a powerful tool for not only improving efficiency, but also saving lives.
Absolutely. Now let's shift our focus to another area where Six Sigma has proven to be highly effective: supply chain management.
I've read that companies like Amazon and Walmart have leveraged Six Sigma principles to optimize their vast supply chains.
Yes, and it's no surprise considering the complexity of their operations. Managing a global supply chain involves countless moving parts from sourcing and procurement to manufacturing, warehousing, transportation, and delivery.
And any disruption or inefficiency along the way can have a ripple effect on the entire chain.
Exactly. That's why companies are increasingly turning to Six Sigma to identify and eliminate bottlenecks, reduce lead times, and improve overall supply chain performance.
So how does Six Sigma apply to such a complex system?
Well, one of the key principles of Six Sigma is process mapping, which involves visually representing each step in a process and identifying potential areas for improvement.
So in the context of a supply chain, they would map out the entire journey of a product, from the supplier to the end customer.
Precisely. And by analyzing this process map, they can identify bottlenecks, areas where delays or errors are occurring, and opportunities for optimization.
And once they've identified those areas, they can use Six Sigma tools and methodologies to implement solutions.
That's right. For example, they might use data analysis to identify the optimal inventory levels to minimize storage costs while ensuring product availability, or they might implement lean manufacturing principles to streamline production processes and reduce waste.
It sounds like a very data-driven and analytical approach.
It is, and that's what sets Six Sigma apart from other management approaches. It relies on data and statistical analysis to make informed decisions and drive continuous improvement.
Now, I'm curious about something. We've talked about the successes of Six Sigma, but what about the potential downsides? Are there any situations where Six Sigma might not be the best approach?
That's a great question, and it's important to acknowledge that Six Sigma is not a one-size-fits-all solution. There are certainly cases where it might not be the most appropriate or effective approach.
Can you give us some examples?
Well, one of the criticisms of Six Sigma is that it can be too rigid and process-driven, especially in fields that require creativity and innovation.
So, for example, if you're working in a research and development department where experimentation and exploration are crucial, Six Sigma's emphasis on standardization and control might actually hinder progress.
That's a valid concern. And it's why some experts caution against applying Six Sigma too rigidly in environments where flexibility and adaptability are paramount.
Another potential downside I've heard about is that Six Sigma can sometimes lead to an overemphasis on metrics and data at the expense of the human element.
That's right. It's important to remember that Six Sigma is a tool, and like any tool, it can be misused. If organizations become too fixated on hitting specific numerical targets, they might neglect factors like employee morale, customer satisfaction, and ethical considerations.
So it's about finding the right balance between data-driven decision-making and human judgment.
Exactly. Six Sigma should be used to inform and guide decisions, not to dictate them. And it's crucial to consider the broader impact of any changes implemented as a result of a Six Sigma initiative.
Now let's talk about one of the most controversial aspects of Six Sigma, the 1.5 Sigma shift.
Ah, yes. The statistical adjustment that has sparked heated debates among Six Sigma practitioners.
Can you explain this shift in simple terms for our listeners?
Well, in theory, Six Sigma aims for a defect rate of 3.4 defects per million opportunities. But in reality, processes tend to drift over time, meaning their performance can deteriorate.
So even if a process initially achieves Six Sigma level quality, it might not stay that way forever.
Exactly. And that's where the 1.5 Sigma shift comes in. It's an adjustment factor that accounts for this process drift, essentially lowering the bar for what is considered Six Sigma level performance.
So instead of aiming for 3.4 defects per million, they adjust the target to account for the likelihood of some slippage.
That's the basic idea. But it's important to note that this adjustment is not without its critics.
I've read that some experts call it a fudge factor and argue that it undermines the rigor of Six Sigma.
Yes, there are concerns that the 1.5 Sigma shift can be used to mask underlying process problems or to make performance look better than it actually is.
So it's a bit of a gray area.
It is, and it's a topic that deserves careful consideration when evaluating any Six Sigma initiative. It's important to understand the rationale behind the shift and to scrutinize the data to ensure that it's not being used to artificially inflate performance metrics.
That's a great point. Transparency and a critical eye are essential when dealing with any statistical adjustments.
Absolutely. Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to emphasize that while Six Sigma has its complexities and controversies, it remains a powerful methodology for driving improvement and achieving excellence.
And regardless of whether or not you plan to implement Six Sigma formally in your own work or life, there are valuable principles and lessons to be learned from this approach.
That's right. The emphasis on data-driven decision-making, the focus on root cause analysis, and the commitment to continuous improvement are all concepts that can be applied in a wide range of contexts.
So even if you never earn a Six Sigma belt, you can still benefit from adopting some of its core principles.
Absolutely. And in the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore some of the practical takeaways from Six Sigma and discuss how you can start applying these principles in your own life or work.
Stay tuned as we delve into the actionable insights and leave you with some tools and strategies to take your own journey of improvement to the next level. Welcome back to the deep dive. It's been quite a journey exploring the world of Six Sigma, from its origins in manufacturing to its impact on diverse industries like healthcare and supply chain management.
And we've also delved into some of the complexities and controversies surrounding Six Sigma, acknowledging that it's not a magic bullet and that it has its share of criticism.
Exactly. And in this final part, we want to shift our focus to you, our listener. What are the key takeaways from this deep dive? How can you apply these insights to your own life or work, even if you're not a certified Six Sigma professional?
One of the most valuable aspects of Six Sigma is its emphasis on data-driven decision-making. It encourages us to move beyond gut feelings and assumptions and to base our decisions on solid evidence.
So instead of just saying, I think this is the problem, we should be asking, what does the data tell us?
Precisely. And this data-driven approach can be applied to almost any aspect of our lives, from personal finances to health and fitness to career decisions.
For example, if you're trying to lose weight, tracking your calorie intake and exercise routine can provide valuable insights into what's working and what's not.
That's a great example. And even if you're not dealing with numbers directly, the principle of seeking evidence to support your decisions can be incredibly powerful.
Another key takeaway from Six Sigma is the importance of understanding and addressing root causes, rather than just treating symptoms.
Think of it like a doctor diagnosing a patient. They don't just prescribe medication based on the symptoms, they run tests to identify the underlying cause of the illness.
So in the context of Six Sigma, if we're facing a problem like customer complaints or defects in a product, we need to dig deeper to find out why those problems are occurring in the first place.
Exactly, and this often involves asking why multiple times until you get to the heart of the issue.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion until you reach the core.
That's a great analogy. And once you've identified the root cause, you can then develop targeted solutions that address the problem at its source.
So it's not just about putting out fires, it's about preventing them from starting in the first place.
Precisely. And this approach can be applied to any problem, whether it's a personal challenge, a workplace issue, or a societal problem.
Now, another aspect of Six Sigma that I found particularly insightful is the focus on continuous improvement.
Yes. Six Sigma recognizes that perfection is an ongoing journey, not a destination.
So even if you achieve a certain level of quality or efficiency, there's always room for further improvement.
Absolutely. And this mindset of continuous improvement can be incredibly empowering. It means that we're never stuck with the status quo and that we can always strive to do better.
It's about embracing a growth mindset and constantly seeking ways to learn and improve.
Exactly. And this applies not just to processes and systems, but also to ourselves as individuals.
So even if you're not working in a Six Sigma environment, you can still adopt this philosophy of continuous learning and self-improvement.
Absolutely. Now, before we conclude our deep dive, I want to address a question that some listeners might be having.
What's that?
We've talked about the benefits and principles of Six Sigma, but is it really something that anyone can apply? Don't you need specialized training or certifications?
That's a great question, and the answer is nuanced. While there are certainly formal Six Sigma training programs and certifications available, the core principles and concepts can be learned and applied by anyone.
Think of it like learning to cook. You don't need to be a professional chef to make a delicious meal. You can start by following recipes, experimenting, and gradually developing your skills.
So in the context of Six Sigma, you can start by reading books and articles, taking online courses, or attending workshops to gain a basic understanding of the methodology.
Exactly. And then you can start applying these principles in your own life or work, gradually building your expertise and confidence.
So it's about taking that first step and being willing to learn and experiment.
That's right. And remember that Six Sigma is ultimately about making things better, whether it's improving a process, enhancing a product, or simply making your life a little bit easier.
And that's something we can all aspire to, regardless of our background or profession.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Six Sigma, I encourage you to reflect on what you've learned and to consider how you can apply these insights to your own life or work. Whether you're a seasoned professional, a student, or simply someone who's curious about continuous improvement, there's something valuable to be gained from understanding the principles of Six Sigma. Remember that it's not about achieving perfection overnight. It's about embracing a mindset of data-driven decision-making, root cause analysis, and continuous improvement. So keep those principles in mind and never stop striving to make things better. And if you're looking for more resources or guidance on your Six Sigma journey, don't hesitate to reach out to us at the Great Indian AI podcast channel. We're always happy to help. And don't forget to like, share, and comment to let us know what you think. We appreciate your support, and we look forward to diving into more knowledge with you in the future.